Hey builders, and congratulations on getting yourself a Kyber control system. So when you receive the system, you will get a Kyber main control board and then one of either the 15 button or the 10 button configurations. You can go back and watch a couple of the other videos on how I've modified the remotes for each one of these button configurations. And watch through those and you can see how I've modified this one to have the 15 button configuration. Then I've also got one that shows various buttons on the sides or on the back of the remote that you can add with the 10 button. So when you get the system, you'll have the Kyber control board. This is your main data port. You won't need that because all software updates will be done through the Wi-Fi and through the web-based app. You have the SD card here and the SD card reader. This is your powered speaker output, so you can run one small speaker, I think anywhere from 2 to 10 watts on this, and this is your positive and your negative. The new boards will only have a 2-screw terminal instead of this 3-screw. And then you've got the 1/8 inch jack here. This is for audio out that you could connect to a powered amplifier. And then this is the power port here, and you'll receive a power cable that goes with that you can tie into and accepts 5 volts to 36 volts with reverse polarity protection. And then we've got the inputs for the Kyber. This is your S-bus here on the far left. They run up and down, so your ground, your 5 volts, and then your signal. And then the next, the middle row running up and down, that is your connection to your Maestros. And then the following third row there is for future development that we will be doing. Okay, so that's the basic system. So the first thing you'll want to do is plug up your S-bus here, again with ground on the bottom, power, and signal. And I'm using an X8R, this is FarSky, and then using a QX7 receiver or transmitter. So then that connects to the S-bus channel on your receivers. Different ones will be in different locations. This one's on the far right with the signal positive and negative, and it's marked here on the top. Okay, alright, so we'll plug this into power, and that will power your receiver. You can run up to 2 amps on that. If you're going to run more servos that are going to pull more than 2 amps, then you'll need to run separate power to your receiver and then cut the red wire on going to the S-bus so that you don't put that voltage back into the Kyber system. Okay, so what we would do, once you plug in the Kyber system, you will want to go to your Wi-Fi, and you'll want to, I'm going to forget this one that I've got selected here so that we can go through the entire setup. So you'll select the Kyber and then hit connect, and then it's going to ask you for a security password. So that password by default is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. And again, the default password is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. So you'll hit next, and then that's going to connect to the Kyber network. There is no Wi-Fi or a internet base there. It's just connecting to the Wi-Fi on the Kyber system. And then once that's done, you'll go into a web browser and type in 192.168.4.1 and then hit enter. And that's going to bring you into the Kyber system. So this is the Kyber control system here. I'm going to go ahead and set this to 0 because that would be set to 0 when you first get the system. So when you first get the system, it will be at home. You'll see the home button, general, button values, RC channels, Wi-Fi, and firmware. So that'll bring us to your transmitter. So if we go into, and I've got this one set up as Kyber test, and then we will go into, and every mode's going to be a little bit different. So this one is the Forest Guy. I'm not doing a detailed tutorial yet on setting up the transmitter itself, but there are several videos out there that explain really well on how to set up your transmitter. I'll eventually do a video for this that shows the basics of setting this up. So I've assigned channel 9 to be the button pad. This was originally this twist pot here. If you go back and watch the videos, you'll see how I replaced that twist pot with the buttons. I've got a toggle switch here set on 10, and that just goes from button bank 1 and button bank 2. If you want to use that, you don't have to. I've got channel 11 for the Wi-Fi and channel 12 for the volume, which is tied to this twist pot here. So when we go back to the button pads, or to the Kyber system in the web panel, you can see the RC channel. So this is where you will set your panel, and you can see I set number 9 here, and if I save that to memory, then you can see it popped up with a button 1 button here. So we'll go ahead and populate this with 10, 11, and 12. And this is the assigned channels that we have on the Wi-Fi. These can be set to any channel you want to on your transmitter, and you just have to make sure you tell the Kyber system which channels you are using. And then always hit save to memory to make sure that all of your data is saved. So if we go to a different button and then we go back, you can see the settings are still there. Okay, now we'll go to the General tab. This is where you'll tell the system how many Maestros you have, if you have them hooked up. If you do not have any, keep this number at 0, because if you do end up programming a Maestro function into the system and it doesn't find the Maestros, it will lock the system up. For this particular test, I do have 2 connected, so we will tell it we have 2 so that we can see all of the button settings on the inside. And then we will tell it we have 15 buttons. And then I'm going to program the stop all to be on button 15, and I just select that because it's just in the top of the controller, really easy to hit. So stop all function basically stops everything. It stops your motion and it stops your sound from playing. So if you happen to play a wrong song and that's not the one you wanted, you can hit the stop and then choose the one that you did want to play. And then if it has a motion playing, it will stop that motion in mid-motion and then totally cancel that run on the Maestro. And then what you will want to do is have a button that basically takes everything back to center, and we'll talk about that once we talk about programming the Maestros. So we'll go ahead and hit save that to memory. So then you can also see that we have the sound features here. You can put a sound that you wanted. So if you wanted a particular sound to play when you start the Kyber system, you can input that here, and then that will play every time the Kyber system starts up. And then we have an equalizer here that can change the tone of the sounds or the music that you're playing. I've messed with these just a little bit, but still the one I like the most is the normal setting. Okay, so we'll save that to memory. And then what we have to do is now we have to tell the Kyber system what our button values are going to be. Every remote's going to be a little bit different. So what we did is just allowed the user to put their button values in, and what that also allows you to do is you can make this button 1 if you want it to be, and then 2, 3. So it doesn't really matter what configuration you have or where your buttons are at on the remote. This could always still be button 1, no matter if you wired it into the button 10 on on the 10 position controller. And the same with this one. This one could be 1 or this one could be 1, whichever way you want to do it. What we want to do first is enter the release state. So right now, with no buttons being pressed, we're at 172. So for this, we'll hit 172 for the released button value, and then always use this as button 1 on my remotes or for this 15 button, and just hold it for a couple of seconds and you'll see 269 and 270. So I would enter 270 there. Button 2 is going to be 372. Button 3 is going to be 469. Then I'm going to save those to memory. Always make sure you get the right done, and then you'll have to click the go back and it'll go back to here. You can see that's at 1680. Okay, and you'll do that for all of the buttons you have here, and make sure you have all of them populated. We won't do that just for sake of a shorter video. And then again, we'll go to the RC channels, and then we'll go back over just to make sure that everything is there. So if we go to the RC channels again, now you can see that it populated this to allow you to have entries here. So this is for the RC channel pass-through through the Maestro, so I can tell the Kyber system that I want RC channel 3 to be able to control Maestro, the servo on the Maestro. I could say, if I've got a 24, I could say servo 12, and you'll click this box here. So now that'll make RC channel 3, whatever you have on here, controllers. If you have a stick here controlling channel 3, now this can control any of these servos through the Kyber control system. So we'll uncheck that and put that back at 0, and then we'll save to memory. Okay, so once we do that, we can go through and check. So we've got that. Another thing on the Maestros, you can do the same thing. With the startup sound, you can have a startup script play for your Maestro. So if you have a certain script that would open all the panels and then close them to make sure they're all open and closed, then you could have that play at the startup. Okay. So now if we go into button 1 page, this is will be in your first toggle switch settings. So if you have it set for toggle switch on here, if it's in the down position, that's button 1 for me, and then in the up position is the button 2 pad. So what we'll do then, if we wanted to play sound, that's something we haven't talked about yet, so let's talk about how to label your files. So on the SD card, in the directory, you need to have a file called MP3. Or a folder called MP3. And then you're going to store all of your sounds inside that folder. All of your sounds need to be labeled 0001 through how many ever sounds you have. I think we've got this up to 1,000. So in this particular folder I have 100. So it's 0001 through 0100. That's what the Kyber system looks for, is just these first 4 digits. And that's it. And anything after that is just for the user to know what it is. So if you have a sad beep or a testy beep, or if it's the digital cantina or the Leia speech, then you can name those so that you know what they are to keep up with. But the Kyber doesn't look for that. It just looks for the 4-digit number up front. And I suggest having this on your computer also somewhere so that you can pull this folder up and then you can actively see what sounds are labeled what, so that while you're programming the Kyber, you'll be able to know which ones are which. So let's say I've got the opening song from Star Wars. So we'll put that's at 0095. So that would be 95. You don't have to put the leading zeros on this. Just put the number itself in the Kyber page. To play one sound, you need to enter the min and the max as the same number. So that means it's only going to play this one sound every time that button is hit. So then the next button I want to program will be all the angry beeps. So then I would put 1, and we can go here and look and see that all of those go 1 through 17. So that would be 1 through 17. So whenever you hit this button, which is button 2 here on the remote, then you're going to get, it's going to play sound 1. If you hit this button again, you're going to get sound 2 all the way through 17, and then it's going to go back and repeat. If you want those in a particular order, you just move them around in your file name. So if you want 3 to be before 2, just renumber 3 as 2 and 2 as 3, and then it'll play those in that particular order. Okay. So with that, once you do that, you can then add a delay. So if we start adding motion in, if we want to play motion 1 that is recorded on Maestro 1 and motion 2, or motion 1 on Maestro 2, then we can play those. So if you're opening panels on the body and in the dome, then you can activate both of those at once. If you see that there's a small delay in one, that they're not lining up perfectly, instead of having to go back and reprogram that in the Maestro, you can add a small delay here. And that's done in milliseconds. So if you wanted to delay 1 second, you would just put 1000 there, and that would delay 1 second. So when you push button 1, it's going to delay. It's going to play this sound. It's going to delay 1 second and play motion 1. And at that time, it would have already started motion 2 if you did not have that at the 1000 millisecond delay there also. So we'll take that back out. And then the same goes for the sound. If you're wanting, if you want the sound to start after the motion starts, then put a delay in the sound delay. And it will, if you do that, put the 1000 here, you hit button 1, it's going to start motion 1 on Maestro 1, start motion 1 on Maestro 2. These will start at the same time unless you have a delay. And then 1 second after that, it's going to start sound number 95. So we'll take that back out. So we'll save this to memory. Okay, then once you get it saved to memory, you hit the right done. And then you can see those values are entered. Same goes with button pad 2. It'll be the same, which will be the up toggle on mine, which would then offer you another 15 buttons that you could set the different things on. One other thing we didn't cover is setting in the Wi-Fi. So once you get your Kyber system up and running, you can see here that you can change the name. Instead of it being Kyber, you could call it Matt's Kyber or whoever this belongs to, and then you can change the password, which I do recommend. But make sure to follow the things here. I mean, this can be maximum of 10 characters, no spaces. And then this can be a maximum of 8 characters with no spaces. You can also set this up on your home network, but it is limited to a maximum of 10 characters for your network name, and then a maximum of 10 characters for your password. and this is, what you would use for your standard Wi-Fi of connecting anything to your Wi-Fi network. Firmware can be upgraded here. So this is your firmware upgrade. You'll select this folder, position here. You'll select the file that we send you, and then you can upload the file to the Kyber system through the Wi-Fi. Okay, now that we have the everything programmed and we've went through all the settings, we should get our sounds now. So if we go and press button 1, you can see we get our sounds and we get our motion. And then you can see that this does control the volume. We'll just play that again. And you can see I can hit the all stop button here, so if the sound is playing, we can just hit that and it kills the sounds. So then, second button we had programmed for sounds 1 through 17. So you can see there's sound 1, sound 2, sound 3, 4, and it'll go through all the way through 1 through 17 on that without repeating, and then it'll go all the way back to number 1. Okay, so I think that's the basics that will get you programmed for the different functions of the Kyber system. Hopefully this gives you a good start on where we need to be, and then will kind of let me know what we need to do more as we progress the manual. Alright, happy building.